Here we go. The next one. This one is from Brandykins88. Have you ever been stuck in a repeated argument? How long did it take to work through? Well, you just witnessed one that's going to take us probably a week and a half to get through. No, it's we have been stuck in arguments from the beginning of our relationship that we still haven't worked through. And the thing that we figured out a few years ago, there were several topics that we just, every time we brought them up and every time we talked about them and every time we tried to go towards them, we'd end up fighting. And it's the saying where if it's hysterical, it's historical. And for a long time, that was really hard for me to understand. I didn't get the connection of it. And I think about like hysterical issues and or things. And I'm like, I didn't understand the saying. But what happens is you and I will get triggered by some core wounds, and then all of our coping mechanisms will be activated and come in. So it's not really a conversation about the dishes. It's a conversation about what was activated underneath the surface of it. And there's been some of those things that we've been able to kind of unpack and process and heal through, and they're no longer triggering arguments. There's no longer issues around those things. And there's still some that we don't. So I think what's important is to recognize that when you have issues in your relationship that seem to continually, whatever the argument might be about, whatever the frustration or those repeating things that you just go through over and over and over again, and they never get solved and they never get figured out, they truthfully, and when I say this truthfully, it's sometimes I get scared to speak so definitively on something, even though, again, like, who cares? It's just a podcast. But I really believe that those issues have nothing to do with your relationship or even with your partner. They have to do with your past and with your issues and with your traumas and with your programming. And yes, your partner has like the perfect mix to trigger you and to spark those things. And then their issues come in, and it's a beautiful blend that takes place. But that's what's happening, is those issues are attached to core wounds or to core issues. And yes, they might come from your relationship. So it's not to say 100% that it doesn't have anything to do with your partner or with your relationship. But the reality is, even those ones, I think, because I'm thinking about a couple of ours that are, might be labeled as classically about our relationship. But those ones even have their roots in the past. So those issues that keep coming up over and over again, if it's hysterical, it's historical. If this argument that you keep having never goes anywhere and always results in a terrible fight that lasts and lasts and leaves each other with hurt feelings and disconnect and no problem solving at all, that's because those arguments have nothing to do with the actual argument about what's taking place. It has 100% to do with your past. Yeah. Can you think of any? Sorry, what else? What were you going to say?
I was like, I don't even know if I can add to that. That was just like encompassing from what I feel too. I also didn't understand if it's hysterical, it's historical. I was like, I don't really understand what that means. And
part of my brain heard, go ahead. Sorry, babe, ADD.
No, it's totally okay. It's totally okay.
Squirrel.
I heard, like, I was trying to make sense. I thought it was like, for me, I associated them, and we talk about this too, how you might have different definitions for the word.
For word.
Because when I heard hysterical, I was like, oh my God, that's hysterical. I thought laughter.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And so it's like, what do you mean? Like crazy? Like if you're like, ah!
Right.
It's historical. I couldn't understand. And don't make a reel of that face, okay? God damn it. I couldn't, it didn't click. It just didn't click. It wasn't until like the actual, like the definition of the way it was used, like hysteria. And when things are like extremes and you're out of, it's this thing that keeps coming up and it's overtaking. And
yeah, like hysteria and histrionic.
Yeah.
These type of psychedelic terms. They're not psychedelic.
Psychiatric.
I don't even know if they're these medical terms. These are official terms.
These words. And then it's and then historical, which means it's like there's roots, it's history, there's a core wound there, there's something that it came from way before. So if there's basically, if it's got like an eruption, then there's something that's been cooking under here. And then as soon as I got that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I can see that. But it took so long. I'm like, it's I don't understand if it's funny. It's history. Like, it didn't click, and then it did. And I think you've covered everything. I don't have everything or anything to add on.
Yes,
that,
some
really.
of ours are around our kids. That's another reason why we don't talk a lot about them on the podcast. We mentioned it earlier when we were talking about back to school stuff, because we have so many wounds there that literally existed long before our relationship. And so we get really triggered in those moments. I'm trying to think of other ones.
I think kids have been really the ones that have
stood out.
Because it was really...
It's because we're so defensive around kids.
Yeah.
It's like you and I
we're both coming from like this place of... We think we're coming from the place of love and what is in their best interest. Right?
Yes. I just realized something because I said what I thought it was, and then you like corrected me to tell me what you think it is. And then I'm like, here we go, folks. It's on.
I thought, okay.
Here comes the argument about, keep going. I'm being
I thought we were saying the same thing, but yeah. No, I totally get that. Do you want to express what you were saying?
No, I'm being silly. I was just kind of like, in my head.
If it's hysterical, it's historical.
Right? If it's funny,
I would like the chance.
It's connected to your trauma. That's probably true.
I would like
as well.
the chance to not cut you off if you would like to
You're
try
fine.
and say what you were saying.
It was totally just the flow of conversation. I was literally in my head thinking as you were talking, I'm like, oh, this is funny. The one issue that we can't talk about without fighting is kids, and then we're going to give you an example.
Right. I really, I was giving us both the benefit of the doubt at that moment. I feel like I was correcting us. So like I was saying, as much as I think I'm acting in their best interest and acting out of love, I also have to remember when we don't agree, you are acting out of what you believe their best interest is and out of loving them.
Right. And I think
so that's what I was trying to say.
Those two actions are just fear-based protection, essentially, right? It's basically Mama Bear and, Big Daddy Bear getting together, deciding who's protecting the kids.
And when it doesn't show, it looks like the other person isn't loving them or putting their best interests first, because that's what you think you're doing.
Part of our brain that goes like, oh, you're a threat now to my children.
Yes.
And I don't know, like there's part of me that thinks that might be, like there's probably some animal nature in there, because obviously in the animal kingdom, it's, there's a lot of examples where the male is not safe, where female bears,
like bears, exactly. Like bears are the perfect, like
bears are a good example,
there's Mama Bear for a reason, because
right?
Mama Bear has to fight grizzlies, and she will.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that part of it's,
but that's just
we might have that instinctual thing inside of us in order to protect our kids, even from each other. But I think the majority of it is programming.
Yeah.
And it's not good programming. It's terrible, toxic programming from our parents. And that's what I think is really being sparked.
We were meant to be.